Hi everyone, welcome to Pinoy Nurse Portal, your portal to the ins and outs of working as a Pinoy nurse in the United States. Welcome, this is your nurse Rebecca. In today's vlog, we are going to talk about DIY or doing it yourself versus applying through a recruitment agency as a nurse. Okay, if you want to come over to the United States, you want to know whether you can afford a DIY or you want to apply through a recruitment agency. We will talk about the advantages and the disadvantages. How much will it cost? Kaya mo ba? Okay? Kaya mo bang mag-DIY or do you want to go through a recruitment agency? If you're like me who used to be broke in the Philippines, yung tipong hindi mo afford mag-Jollibee, you can only afford to eat Jollibee during payday. At saka, even if you're not paying for your mortgage or your rent, ay hindi mo pa rin ma-afford yung madaming bagay. Yung tipong ganun ba? So, ibig sabihin, hindi mo talaga afford ang DIY. So, if you're like that, please stick around dahil pag-uusapan natin yan sa vlog na ito. Okay?
Here we go, it's all about you, it's all about me, it's all about what we do. Making art, you and me, trying to find something to believe.
So pag-usapan natin yung DIY, do it yourself, coming to the United States, or go through a recruitment agency. Like I said, if you're a brokeness like I used to, please use a recruitment agency. Bakit? Because it's really expensive to come over here. Let's start with the fees. The first thing you need to do is take your NCLEX. How much does it cost? Right now, it will cost you $200 or the equivalent in your country, okay? And that's not all you have to pay. You have to pay for the scheduling fee, which is $150 or the equivalent in your country, okay? In the Philippines, that's about magkano ba? Hindi ako magaling sa math. So comment down below, okay? So magkano na yan? That's $350 already. Next, your review, your books. If you decide to review, to go through a review center for your NCLEX, how much does it cost right now in the Philippines? That's really, really expensive. Not unless you can DIY it yourself, but I highly suggest, guys, don't take the risk. Napakamahal nung babayaran mo for your NCLEX. Plus, hindi lang yun, if you fail the NCLEX, you have to do it all over again. You are also wasting time. Not only money, you're also wasting energy, okay? So I highly suggest look for a good review center. Next, you have to pay for IELTS. How much does it cost? It costs $250 right now as we speak. And then how much does it cost if you will go through a review center for your IELTS? You can do it on your own. There's a lot of videos right now in YouTube. When I did my IELTS, I did it on my own. I did not go through a review center. That's why yung listening ko naman was 5.5. But I was so lucky. I got a 7 in my speaking and my total band score was 6.5. For nurses to come over to the United States, all you need is a 6.5 in your total score, but your speaking has to be 7. Okay? Next thing you need to consider, may pambayad ka ba ng visa screen? How much is visa screen? Visa screen will cost you, as we speak, is $665 or the equivalent in your country. May pera ka ba nun? If the answer is no, go through a recruitment agency, okay? Next, airfare. Okay, the agency will pay for your airfare. It was so convenient. They paid for my airfare. Okay, next, meron ka bang pocket money? Things to consider. Do you have pocket money? And do you have allowance? Who will work or who will look for your apartment in the United States? Who will pick you up in the airport? If you have relatives, if you are well off in the Philippines and you can afford all of that, everything that I said that you need to pay, then you can by all means do a DIY. In my case, I had an agency. Paano ko nahanap yung maganda kong agency? Okay, I found them through POEA. Okay, go to POEA. Usually may mga agency dyan na naghahanap ng nurses. It's so funny nga, when I went to POEA, I was looking for Singapore kasi meron na akong 1 kid noon. So sabi ko, if I'm going to leave my kid, I want to go to a place that's close to the Philippines. Kaya pag day off ko, I could just go home. But then the Lord showed me a different agency. They were HCCA and they were bringing nurses over to the United States. I was just lucky. Minsan kasi if it's meant to be, it's really meant to be. Imagine, I graduated nursing in 1997. Ang nangyari was, instead of me, advancing my career, ganyan-ganyan. Nabuntis ako, so I had my first child. Lahat na ng mga classmates ko, most of them were already in United Kingdom kasi nung kapanahonan namin, UK was the patok na patok back then. So I was like, a little depressed. But the Lord always has a different plan for you guys. Don't be discouraged if you went through a different route. You will always, okay, find the right path for you. Just keep on believing, just keep on working, and don't lose hope, okay? Since napag-usapan na natin yung agency, what are the disadvantages naman nung coming over to the United States using a recruitment agency? First one is they have a cut in your paycheck. In 2006, I was only making $20.50 per hour. Per hora yun, guys, okay? But if you are to work, nung panahon na yon, ang bigayan na ng nurses was the $30, $32, mga ganon, okay? So meron silang cut, okay? But that's not forever. My contract was only 2 years. So what happens if you breach the contract? Kasama doon sa pipirmahan ninyo, back then you have to pay $14,000 if you are to breach the contract. Another part of the contract is while working for them is you cannot work part-time sa ibang hospitals, okay? Okay, so after the disadvantages, ano naman yung advantages ng pagpunta sa US through a recruitment agency? Napakadami, guys. Okay, so let me just give you a short story kung paano nangyari. Okay, so like I said, I found my agency at POEA. Doon ka pumunta to make sure that it's a legit hiring agency. Okay, so naalala ko back then, ang requirements lang na hinanap sa akin was barangay clearance, police clearance, NBI clearance, and my passport. The rest, they did it on their own. Yung visa screen, they will just ask you, okay, give me this, give me that, give me this paperwork, but they applied for everything, okay? So they applied for my visa screen, meaning they paid for it, they sent the paperworks, okay? And ano pa ba? They took care of my NCLEX, the review for NCLEX. So they paid for that. They paid for my NCLEX. They paid for my airfare to go to Saipan. Back in 2004, there was no NCLEX in the Philippines. You guys are so lucky now that you can take your NCLEX in the Philippines. But they paid for my airfare and my hotel accommodation. Plus, they gave me pocket money to go to Saipan. So all expense paid. Ilang days ba kami sa Saipan? It's like 2 or 3 days. I don't remember. Comment down below if you went through HCCA agency. Okay, tapos ano pa ba? So they paid for my IELTS, although they did not pay for my review ng IELTS because back then they have an IELTS bonus. What it was if you pass your IELTS without going through a review center, kasi kailangan they have to pay for a review center. They will ask you to sign a waiver if you pass the IELTS without them sending you to a review center, they will give you a bonus. I remember it was $200. So I took my chances. Okay? Kasi whether you pass or fail, i-re-apply ka ulit nila ng IELTS because they invested so much on you na. So bakit nila i-waste yun, di ba? So I took my chances. I reviewed on my own and luckily, kasi nga nabuntis na ako, so kailangan ko ng galingan ngayon. I passed the IELTS and they paid $200. So what else did they pay for me? Next, they paid for my airfare, okay? Nung pagpunta ko dito sa United States, they gave me pocket money, that's $1,000 if I'm not mistaken. And I also had $6,000 bonus. So yung $6,000 bonus na yun was given in staggered payment within the range of 2 years. Ano pang binayaran nila sa amin? They paid for the first month ng apartment. They arranged for my apartment. It was so convenient, guys. Napakagaling nila because they chose an apartment that is close to a bus stop. Because as soon as you arrive in the United States, if you're not well off like me, you won't be able to afford a car yet. Okay, you have to save up for your first car. That's why it's really important to choose an apartment that's accessible to a bus stop. Next, they paid for my rental, not utilities, ano ba yun, furnitures. They paid for 6 months. So, kasi pagdating mo dito, the apartment is not furnished. Ibig sabihin, there's no bed, there are no sofas, dining tables. All of those were paid for by my agency. Napakagaling talaga ng HCCA. So, for 6 months. After 6 months, you have to pay on your own or you have to buy your own furniture. What I did back then was we bought yung cheap lang. Just buy a cheap one, go to Goodwill second hand. Ang ginagawa namin dati is kapag yung sa dump site, yung upuan namin, punulot lang namin sa basurahan. Hindi naman siya nasa loob ng dump site, nandun lang siya sa baba ng dump site, okay? Pero yun yung experience ko nung bagong dating ako sa United States. So yung upuan namin at saka yung side chair, pinulot lang namin sa dump site. Although I bought a bed and we also bought a dining table. Okay, next advantage is they have a representative. Pagdating namin sa United States, they picked us up from the airport. They brought us to our apartment. Kasi dumating kami ng nighttime na. The following day, the same representative picked us up and took us to SSS, Social Security Service. That's very important to secure your Social Security Service number as soon as you arrive in the United States. Otherwise, hindi ka pwedeng mag-work, okay? And then, the following day, dinala niya kami doon sa hospital. We did a tour. We met our managers and our colleagues. Ganyan. And there you have it, guys. Napakadaming advantages versus disadvantage ng recruitment agency. Aside from the cut, I think it's very convenient, especially for nurses who are like me. Sa lahat ng nurses na nangangarap pumunta sa United States, I highly suggest to use a recruitment agency if you can't afford a DIY, okay? But if you can afford, by all means, guys, go ahead, do it, okay? What's important is makarating kayo dito kung gusto nyong maging USRN, okay? So there you have it, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's episode of Pinoy Nurse Portal. If you're not a subscriber yet, pa-subscribe naman, guys. One of my vlogs have 1,000 views, but I only have 120 subscribers. Why, sister?